Hey guys, Amy here, producer and presenter of Eerie Excursion podcast, the podcast that collects eerie tales from around the UK as told by local tour guides and experts. Now, I posted a video last week announcing season 2 on the 17th of September, and I gave a little sneak peek into some of the stories you can expect later this year. Now, I know that some of you might be new, or maybe you didn't remember season 1. Now, obviously, I will strongly suggest you follow the link below to the YouTube channel where you can listen to and catch up with the season 1 of Eerie Excursion, or wherever you get your podcasts. But for now, I wanted to tell you some of my favourite stories from the first series of Eerie Excursions. So season 1 kicks off in a two-parter in Northampton, which sits in about the middle of England. It's a very special place because it's my hometown. My guide here was Adrian Perkins, who is a local author and historian. The first stop was in the underground vaults of Northampton. So in this episode, Adrian tells me that we're not quite sure what these vaults were. So you'll see the columns, they kind of look like arches that you might get at the top of a church. And there is more below the floor in those vaults. So those pillars go down a lot further down. But there's no record that a church was there. So we don't know what this vault was. And then in that dark room at the end, that was where we recorded the last bit of the episode. And honestly, by the time I came to film afterwards, I was ready to stay in the light, hence why I'm hovering by the dark shadows. It was a really cool experience, but definitely very creepy. Then in the second episode of the Northampton part, we go to a place called Weirden Depot. Now this used to be an old army depot and is now a bunch of different businesses in different buildings across the depot. Some of them have, there's like a gym there, I believe. There's an antique shop, and there's also a book/a coffee shop. And it's a story from this coffee shop, which is in the first building, if you ever do go to the depot, on the first floor, that I wanted to share.
He said to me, we're getting some really strange things going on. I said, well, like what? And he said, well, we're getting people walking around that are not there. He said, you can hear somebody walking towards a counter from along the room because it's wooden floors. Yeah. He said, one day he said, I actually moved forward to let somebody come behind me. But he said there was nobody there.
Another great episode is at the University of De Montfort's museum in Leicester, which is again in the Midlands, for those of you that don't know where Leicester is. But I do go to other places, regions across the UK, I swear. Now, the legend I want to talk to you about in DMU is the legend of Black Annis, who is a witch who is said to live in a cave outside of the city, but travels through these underground tunnels. And it's under this archway where she is said to snatch naughty children late at night. My guides in this episode were Elizabeth and Stephen, and they had plenty of stories which I really think you should check out. Now, by far the most popular episode of the series was the one in York. For anybody who doesn't know, York is a city that has preserved a lot of its Viking heritage, and it's kind of capitalized, I should say, by its iconic medieval minster, which kind of looms over the city. It's very pretty, very Harry Pottery. That's all I could say. My favourite story here is about Dick Turpin, who is one of, if not the most famous highwaymen in English history from the 18th century. Now, he was hanged in York, and his body was kept for one night in the Blue Boar, which is a pub in York. And apparently, his soul hasn't left. Lastly, one episode takes place in Birmingham. Now, I love this episode because it was more about creepy things happening. There weren't that many ghosts, as Al the guide will tell you. But this is why I really wanted to include this episode in the podcast, because we're called Eerie Excursions. Yes, we do love ghosts, but we will take all tales of the uncanny, whether they feature spirits or not. So this clip here is from the graveyard where a man named John Baskerville is finally buried. I say finally because his corpse went on a bit of an adventure around Birmingham. Obviously, I'll leave that as a cliffhanger because Al is a much better storyteller than I am. So this was just a little window into season 1 of Eerie Excursions. To find out more, you can listen to all the episodes by following the link below. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss season 2 coming out on the 17th of September.